So now we will start the next session. So what happens after you clarify? Now you know, many of you know the 3 C's here. Can you guess? What is the next C after clarify? Okay, thank you. So, you know, the point of clarity is just the start, right? Because with clarity, you need action. You need to execute. You need to create the next plan. You need to bring people together as well to help you with it. And also you need to make sure that your brand fits the new clarity or goal that you have. And what can you do to make it work? So right now we'd like to invite also our next set of panelists. Can I, and our moderator as well. Can we invite Marlin? Please take a seat. Yeah. And can we have Ke also on the spotlight? Yeah. Just give us a second to get everyone here. So my role here is basically to tell a little small story about how Marlin and us as the Anahead team came to meet, and then I'll let Marlin take over the next part of the session, and I'll also introduce Ke. But Marlin was actually our very first participant when Britta and I had seeded this idea of Anahead to help everyone in their career relaunch journey. So Marlin actually joined us. She comes from Finland and also worked in Sweden, and her experience is mainly in the financial consulting area. And Marlin has now come full circle, where she's helping us also mentor, helping us moderate. We had some health issues with one of our moderators, so Marlin actually said yes to trying, yes to not failing, yes to taking the next step. So thank you very much, Marlin, to help us moderate this session. And her experience also led her to Germany, now joining Accenture in one of the Jumpstart programs for experienced individuals. So anyone with questions for that, you can go ahead and also reach out to Marlin. And online, we have also Ke, which is, in fact, my history with her goes 20 years back. We did our first projects together in Singapore Management University. Ke is an expert in innovation and insights. She has worked with large brands. She spent 15 years in China as well, where we again met after our university days from Singapore. And then she's looked into brands like Lipton, Unilever, etc. And so she could give you also a bit of advice here for those looking into this area. And I let then the both of them introduce the panelists and continue the discussions. Yeah.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, I have to say, my younger daughter was 9 months old when I saw this ad about the event where Carol and Britta were participating. It wasn't their own event, it was shared. And I thought I was going to get back quick on time. I had all the tools and everything. It took me 4 years. So to all those struggling, it might not happen instantly. Then again, trust the process. And like I said as well, accepting now to moderate, for me, that is, you grow when you are challenged, not when you're comfortable. So step out of your comfort zone, all of those who are thinking about relaunching, it's definitely worth it. So why are we here and what do we talk about? This session is about create. And what is that? If you look in your folders, you see that it's about what makes you unique, what differentiates you from others, because the competition is real, even though they claim it's employees market. It's still a tough competition. I think employers are still picky about who they have. And what do you want to achieve? So these are like a lot of things that you need to be thinking about. And for that, there are tools. Britta shows the Personal Branding Canvas, which is an excellent tool that you can use. It's worth going back to it for all different types of purpose, but definitely when you're thinking about your own personal branding, it's super useful. So take time to go through. I don't think we're going through it right now, no, but it's it's a super useful tool. And also how you set up your LinkedIn profile, how you can maybe use the Ikigai to form your purpose and your why. So for those of you who are participating online, please type in questions for the Q&A session later. And for those of you who are on site, you can start thinking, you will have the chance to ask them. Who are the people on our panel? So with me today are two people on site in Sulzbach. It's Sandra Zajons. Yes. She is HR Senior Recruiting Consultant, SAP. And also here is Alisa Net, HR Recruiting Consultant, SAP. So Sandra is from the non-tech team, and Alisa is recruiting for tech roles within Germany. And we actually beforehand asked for some fun facts. And Alisa speaks 6 languages, which helps her communicating with different cultures. And Sandra studied educational science, and somehow her journey led her into recruiting in a big tech company. And also worth noting, they are diversity champions for Germany in recruiting to coach and educate the business in inclusive hiring. Isn't that amazing? We need more of this. Welcome. And now over to Ke
Hi everyone. Today we're also really happy to have Lars Verdish, the founder and managing director of Precious Communications. Precious Communications is a boutique strategic communications and public relations consultancy serving B2C and B2B companies across Asia Pacific. And something interesting about Lars, he had intended to only do a 9-month project in Hong Kong, but now has been there for 20 years. I can relate to this story because I had only intended to go to China for 2 years and then ended up there 15 years. So that is something about Asia that keeps you here. And welcome, Lars. And also we want to welcome Christina Reiter, founder and managing director of Personal Branding Institute and author of Visible Women. Thank you for joining us today. And I'd like to start with the first question. How has personal branding evolved over the last few years? And how do you see it changing in the near future? You know, will it be changing because of COVID, social media platforms, or touch points? Perhaps, Lars, you can start the conversation first. You're mute, Lars.
Normally, my team always says I'm loud enough. I don't need a microphone, so maybe that's why I forgot to press the button. I think it's a lot of the personal branding comes with the ascent of all kinds of social media, right? I mean, Facebooks, the LinkedIn's, the TikToks, the IGs, and what was previously kind of very clear cut. LinkedIn is for jobs, Facebook for family, and IG for friends. It's all a big kind of mix and match these days. So it's much easier to create willingly or unwillingly a personal, and that means also professional profile, right? Just Google some candidate's name and you find their IG, so their Instagram so easily. So, it's one thing, it's much easier to do something. But it's also, we have to be a little bit more careful because everything leaves a footprint and that reflects back on us. So how will that go further? We have better tools than ever to create content, visual content, written content, with the help of AI, for example, right? So we don't need those massive skills. We don't need that much time. Much easier to create a profile in our interest.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, it's true. ChatGPT has also changed my life. And perhaps Sandra, would you like to also share something?
Yes, I think, is it on? Not sure. Can you hear me? Sorry.
No.
Yeah, it's better. Yeah, I think also when we think about the market, yeah, it's not an employer market, it's an employee market. But we want to find the best talent. For example, we as company, as SAP, we want to find the best talent. And where do we find them? Actually on social media, yeah. So LinkedIn, for example, is a big topic for us. When you don't make yourself visible, yeah, how can we find you? Yeah. So this is a big topic also when we talk later about job opportunities on our career website. Yeah, we have when especially when it comes to women, they are sometimes a little bit scared to apply because they say, I don't know if I can really fulfill the position. There are some things I haven't experienced yet. Yeah. So this is the only way of truth to find you guys outside. Yeah, so feel free to make yourself to bring yourself on social media, even if it's a new topic for some of you. Yeah, make yourself or educate yourself in it. Just apply or just make your own profile. Just search for people you find interesting or companies you find interesting, and inspire yourself through social media. I think this is the first step to create your own profile, maybe to create also your own brand. Yeah. But the first thing is don't be shy. Make the step, yeah, and use social media as an important tool for your personal brand.
So I think it's quite clear that with social media, it's very important to curate our message, our image, but at the same time, the things that have been holding people back, sometimes the shyness can be also overcome now with new technology tools like AI. And so the potential is really out there to take the first step in a very easy way. And I'm going to hand it to Marlin to ask the next question.
So we talked about visibility, and I would like to ask Alisa, why is visibility particularly important for women?
Well, I'd say like for us, especially, we are working in a tech industry. So tech, if you hear tech industry, so you would probably mainly think of men. It's like a male-dominated industry. And we do have a lot of women working in tech, like us both. I don't know how to code or anything, so we are all women in tech. But visibility there is especially very important because as you say, there's a lot of unconscious bias, and as I said, it's a male-dominated industry, and like unconscious bias is there is a lot of psychological effects also around this. So if we take out one psychological effect, maybe it's the similar to me effect. So I tend to find people more suitable that are more likely than or are similar to me. So it could be also about things like we went on the same vacation to Italy, or yeah, if you tell me that, I feel like, oh yeah, we connect somehow. And that also applies to gender. So if you don't make yourself visible, like men who are like still unfortunately like have the higher percentage in managing roles, or yeah. So men tend to find other men more suitable for the role. So this is why it's even more important for women to make themselves visible, to show how great they are, and yeah, to sell themselves, to overcome also these biases and these similar to me effects, for example.
Okay, and spinning on with this, how can women stand out from the noise? From your experience, how have the candidates stood out and what helped them? And what are the areas to watch out for or avoid?
Well, that's a question that's a bit hard to answer sometimes because I would say, well, we have internally at SAP, we have also a big network called Women in Tech. It's a network from women who help other women to work on their also rhetorical skills, to help them sell themselves, to build up their personal brand. So we have also like coaching programs, we have mentoring. Like mentoring is a very good part that women should really consider to get advice from other women who have been successful in their roles. And yeah, so what I would advise other women how to stand up from the noise is like what I said, to work on your rhetorical skills. Don't like get out of your comfort zone, try to make yourself more visible, try to just present something in a small room in front of people, get feedback then afterwards, like actively ask for feedback. Don't ask people like, was it good or was it not good? Like try to get feedback that you can work with, and how you can then develop with how you can develop these skills. And yeah, that's the advice that I would give to other women to stand up from the noise.
I'd like to also ask Christina and Lars if they have something to add on to this question about how to stand out from the noise or be visible.
I actually think that it's super important to kind of differentiate on what personal branding actually is, because we talk a lot about social media, but in general, I would always say your personal brand starts when you leave the house to go to the office. So people in your company need to know who you are and what you do and what you actually contribute with your work to the success of your department or the company in general. So it doesn't just have to be the big stage or the social media arena. You can actually already build visibility in a very small scale. But there's one thing, and it has been mentioned, women are more hesitant when it comes to personal branding because there are a lot of misconceptions about what personal branding is. It's not a me, myself, and I show. It's not about showing off what amazing things I do. I usually say that when you start thinking about personal branding, it's about who you want to reach, and what's the topic that you want to reach other people with. And when you talk about the things you care about and that are important to you, and the things that you do on a daily business, that will always showcase and portray who you are, what you're good at, and what you basically do and what you're passionate about. And I think that is also something that I noticed makes a huge difference when I speak to women, because they realize, oh, I don't have to become an influencer to really make myself visible. I can start at a very small scale. And that's something that really makes a difference when I speak to women, especially to women, whereas personal branding is not just a case to think about for women in general. Everyone should think about how they want to be seen and perceived by other people.
And it's like, it's like if you are in a job, utilize your job, the platform that you have, right, Christina? But it's like if you took a break, a sabbatical, your career change, you took care of your parents, mental health break, you had kids, all these kind of things, it's maybe slightly different, and then online might play a different role, right? So one thing is like, the hygiene factor, get your CV in order. It's so simple, but it's like have a professional photo that reflects who you are today, not 10 years ago. Sorry, yes, you have changed, but that's you. So own it, for God's sake, right? Because people might not recognize you when you enter the building. I have that. And the other one is own the gaps, own the story. So we have people like say, you have a break, don't hide it. Every recruiter will look into the gaps on your CV. They will call it out. So own it proactively would be my point, right? It's okay, I did have the break because of that reason. Stage 2, if you want to up it a level, what did you learn? What skills did you acquire during that break? Or to be honest, because of that, I couldn't focus on something else. But, I have this typical, how do you stand out kind of things. Can you make it a story that makes people really giggle or or Smile or Grin, right? Operated 9 months on literally no sleep, master in multitasking. Every mother can adhere to that kind of thing, right? So that I always get something out of it, because really like shows you were not doing nothing. You had a different kind of job that you've done, and you can play any kind of career change in a way that it tells a story. And it doesn't have to be coherent. Just tell me why you did these things and what happened. And that's online, that's offline, but you also have to bring your game when you're in the room or on a Zoom call, right?
I would like to add one thought. It just came to my mind. I've said it a lot in the past few weeks because I noticed it makes a difference, especially with women. I mean, I wrote a book about visible women, so my focus is mostly on how to make women visible or how to bring them into visibility. But one thing really made an impact. Think about every woman who chooses not to be visible takes away or denies a role model for at least another woman. Just let that sink in. Think about it. If you decide you don't want to be visible, you basically take away a role model for another woman. And if we talk about the tech industry, for example, there aren't a lot of women that are visible. So every woman who chooses not to be visible actually kind of interferes with other women applying for a tech role, because they see no other women, and you can't be what you can't see. I mean, it's a very famous saying. So always think about that when you decide whether you say yes to a talk or to somewhere you can be visible, because that really makes a difference.
Okay, I think because of that, let's jump on something, because I think what's really important here is that both of you have, and all of you, including Leah, have mentioned the idea about being unashamed, owning your story, creating the change, and create emotion out of people. Right now, I'd like everyone to kind of think about a role model that they have in their life that they would like to be like, and perhaps think about it. Take 1 minute to think about it, 1 or 2 minutes to think about it, and turn to the person beside you and tell them who this person is and why you'd like them to what about this person that is your role model. And for the online participants, can you do the same thing? Take 1 or 2 minutes to think about your role model and type them in the chat box here.
I just need
Huh, that's a good question. Actually, so far, this has been my favorite session. I like what they're saying about the branding. Okay, I'm gonna unmute the. No. I don't think this had really opened my yeah. Okay. There it is. There you go. Oh, but it is for. Yeah, I mean, you can.
Can I take this?
Yeah, you can take it. You can take it. Yeah, you can take it. It's 85.
And that is like my insight is like you wanna rainfall makes the whole. She said about her phone, but the very exceptional like now my friend is
Okay, let's wrap up our last sentences and then we will come back and continue the discussion. Marlene, will you take over the next question?
Marlene, can you say something? Marlene, can you say something? I have no clue how this works. I try, but I don't know how this works. Okay, now you're good. You're good. You're good. Yay! I upskilled. Say something. No? You left. Can you say something? Yeah.
Hello.
We We need nephew. Yeah, sorry,
I'm sorry.
no, thank you.
What happened?
She needs to speak. I will take your water, put it here.
I'm sorry.
How can women help others see their talent, potential, and overlook skill shortfalls? What is the process? What do they need to be realistic about? And what can they do to bridge before applying for roles? How about this to Sandra?
Yeah, maybe I can talk a little bit about my work environment. I'm working in a very diverse team. We have male talent, female talents in my team, but especially when it comes to my female colleagues, we're working very closely together. We're always in discussion together, and we always give feedback to each other. And the very interesting thing is that it's not just we have younger colleagues, elder colleagues, but we're always talking to each other eye to eye. Yeah. So they are not like, oh, Sandra, now you're in the working now you're working for 4.5 years now. Let me tell you my advice. Yeah. So it's more like, hey, that presentation was quite good. Yeah. But feel free to be more open or to talk a little bit stronger. Yeah, so it's always about giving feedback to each other, talking to each other. It's also a big thing at SAP is the mentoring program. So you have the opportunity to have or to search for a mentor and to be a mentee, yeah, and to talk to other people about what kind of things you want to learn or where you want to develop yourself. I'm sorry, it's like not working that good. So it's a lot about, I would say, communication to each other, yeah, and then try to develop yourself in the skills you think you're not good enough. I would never describe it like that. It's just the thing where you can be better, yeah, or where you can develop yourself every day. Yeah, I think that hopefully that fulfills the question.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to say something about this? Or else I hand over to you, Keju.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then the next question that we have is like, how have you, any of you, gone about pitching yourself for a role when you've only seen a 60 to 70% fit? You know, what do you do to get your pitch ready? And how can we avoid overused terms? Perhaps Lars, you can lead first.
Sure. So, you know, it's really about, if you think about fit, right, that you always have attitude, knowledge, and skills that I look for example, right? And attitude, a lot of times it's the right fit. It's a little bit of the chemistry thing. And so it's really about, do you think you can convey that you're passionate about the job? So it's not just the hard skills, but really, can you show that your passion can make up for some of the things you might not directly fit in? It's not like desperately showing like, oh, I suddenly love B2B marketing or something, but it's really about, hey, I'm passionate about your company. I love what you're doing, or I'm really fascinated by IT, or these kind of things. And you have a story to back it up, right? Some skills that are directly a fit, but then what are transferable skills? You know, like for example, if you have done something in communications or sales, that's very transferable. We always sell stories. We always sell ourselves. We sell something, right? So look at those transferable skills. You know, if you're, of course, if you haven't a classification as an auditor, don't apply for an audit role. I get that. But, you know, if you don't need those classic certifications, look really like, do you think, also honestly, do you think you have what it takes to get started in a solid way on the job? And you've shown that you learn, right? So when you turn up, show that you understand the industry, show that you've done some research, show that you understand who are the players in the market. So you can put that already in your application. You can have that in your conversations and these kind of things. And so it's really like, you know, what you can't deliver on your 100% core skills, show on the transferable skills, the passion and the effort.
Thank you, Lars. Anyone else wants to share? So,
Yeah, and I would, as a recruiter, I would say when I have interviews, most of the women are more prepared for the position than men. Yeah, but this is just something I experienced. And I think preparation is everything. Yeah. You can focus on the things you already experienced, yeah, or the requirements you fulfill, but don't hesitate to talk about the things you're not fulfilling yet. Yeah, you can share always experiences or the idea how you want to develop yourself into that role. Yeah, what kind of skills you already have, and how you can develop into the skills you or the requirements you don't have yet. Yeah, this is also a really, really good focus, and bring in skills who are maybe not mentioned in the job description. Yeah, for me, it's always, okay, that will be the perfect fit. You know, you will never find the perfect house or the perfect partner, so you will never find the perfect candidate as well. Yeah, and sometimes there are skills where we are not aware of who could be also very important for the job. Yeah, so please focus also on topics like, where does this role develop, or how does this role look like in 2 years, and what kind of skills does this role needs in 2 years? And we don't even have that in our minds, but you have. Yeah. So don't be scared if you don't fulfill every requirement. It's not possible. Yeah. And when we come to the diversity part, one more time, you don't have to. Yeah. So I think a company or also a work environment lives with different career paths. Yeah. With different experiences, with different skills. Yeah. You don't need a team where everyone is, for example, good in social media when it comes to marketing, when you also have a big topic like events. Yeah. And this is also quite important. Yeah. So focus on the things you don't have yet, but you tell the hiring manager or the recruiter how you develop yourself into that role, and maybe also what you need to do that. And also on the things that could be also quite interesting.
That's a very fascinating way to reframe the idea of not fully fitting by displaying passion, in a sense where passion means knowledge into the industry, knowledge into the job, because maybe you already know so much about it because you're so interested in it. And also I think like the idea where we can actually suggest new skills that we have looking forward into the future of where this job is going to. I think these are really good points to help all of us. Thank you so much. And now I think we're ready to go into the Q&A. And I think, and so now perhaps the on-site and online audience can start thinking of their questions. Actually, I have already one question online by Lisa. Lisa, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, hello. My question was to be visible on LinkedIn. Is it recommendable to put the open to work circle, the green circle, or does it look a bit desperate? Because I always have these discussions with friends.
Well, no, it doesn't look desperate. Definitely not. You should let everyone know that you are open, and yeah, as Sandra also said, like prepare your LinkedIn profile. Let others know that you're looking for new opportunities, and also share what you're looking for. So there is also like a small paragraph that you can write what you're looking for and what you are very good at, what you're skilled in, and yeah, share it and use the keywords. recruiters search for keywords. So yeah.
Just at the same time, it seems like common sense, but if you are still employed, don't put it on your profile. That scares the living hell out of your current boss. Also, if you're thinking about a career change, be a little bit more subtle in updating your LinkedIn profile. Otherwise, that's also kind of triggers a little bit of anxiety of all the people you're working with.
I would actually like
Thank
to
you.
I would like to add a thought a little bit out of the box. So I actually disagree a little bit on putting the open to work button onto the profile, because I think it's more effective if you, for example, focus on creating content, on networking, on creating conversations and going into discussions. And that is what I would like to mention as an out of the box thought. We tend to plan our career very short term, one step after the other. But if you think about it in a little longer time frame, where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? I mean, a lot of people ask this question in interviews, but I feel many people don't really think about that until they go into an interview. But if you think about where you want to be in 5, 6, 7 years, a little bit more long term, you can actually use personal branding as a tool to never have to put the open to work button on your profile and to actually never have to apply anywhere. Because if you build a solid network on the go, you will always find people you can ask, or you can actually ask your close circle if they can recommend you. Putting another point that I would like to make, recommend each other. There is this common sense of how networking works. Still, I see many people don't do it. Networking is not just about I send a contact request to someone and then we're connected. Networking is something that needs to live. So make sure if you hear about a position and you have someone on the back of your mind where you think this could be actually cool, ping that person and make her or him aware of it. If you're directly being asked, do you know someone who would fit this role? Suggest someone if you know someone. Actively reach out to your network. I think networking actually is the most underrated part of personal branding, and also when it comes to creating a career. So rather than thinking about short term, should I put the open to work banner circle on my profile? Try to take a step back and think about where you want to go longer term and start building onto that through networking.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very helpful.
And and again, sorry, just a quick add on that, right? Think about, who are the people in the space you are in or want to get into. Follow them. Again, example is LinkedIn, but there are many other platforms. Start commenting, start reposting their posts. Then people get aware of you. Your name comes up in context, right? Start commenting on current news topics in the field that you're passionate about, so that you create a profile not about what has been, but what you're passionate about, and really the in-depth the topics and current topics that you want to be associated with. Show that you have a point of view, right? Why you think that's important, why this is happening, what you make of it. That makes you stand out in your profile, beyond just the CV side. Like, what do you post? Do you post? Do you comment? What do you like? That creates the story that you have there.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the idea of pulling people to you rather than just going out externally, I think that's a very crucial point. And shall we go on to the on-site participant for questions? Marlene, over to you.
Yeah, hi, this is Akila, and I've got 2 questions. We can take in any order. So the first question is, post a transition, when let's say one is applying to multiple companies, more often at times, let's say I see my resume is just going into a box, and then I get a very generic response saying, sorry, we just found a candidate with better fit. And that's completely fair from a recruiter's perspective, because they cannot send out individual rejection reasons to every candidate. But how do we sort of, as candidates, how would we better this process, just to seek some feedback and understand what's going wrong, or what can be improved? This is one question.
And the second question is probably when I try to connect to people on LinkedIn, I mean, it's just fair that I'm cold approaching people. It's not like everything needs to fall in place. But a lot of times it's like, how do I sort of make this whole process better? How do I make this whole pipeline better, right? From applying to the interview converts to the subsequent rounds.
Oh, okay. So I would just
Sorry,
like
it's only
to-
because you're too close. That's
So yeah, just in regards to the first question, so that's pretty hard to give an advice because you never know like what were the real reasons for the rejection. But mostly it's not because you weren't a fit for the role, but you never know what's behind the position. So probably there was, in many cases, there was already a candidate that we decided on, and it doesn't mean that your profile was not a fit. But we cannot always, as you said, we cannot always give like individual feedback to everyone, and you should not take too much thoughts of every rejection you get, because there are also maybe people who have a similar profile as you, and then you just need to decide. So it does really not mean that you are not a fit. Sometimes maybe it does mean that, but in many cases it doesn't. And so I wouldn't say it makes sense to always reach out to the recruiter or to the hiring manager to get feedback, because there's just not room to give everyone feedback on that. But what I said before also, it's try to maybe also join some mentoring or coaching clubs. So there are a lot of coaching companies also outside who can tell you how do you structure your CV? How can you like sell yourself better? So you should probably do this rather than contacting everyone on LinkedIn, every recruiter. Can you help me? I'm happy to help people if I have the time, but most likely I don't have the time to just give everyone advice and to answer everyone on LinkedIn. Yeah, probably mentoring and coaching for these specific requests would be my advice. And the second question, I don't remember. Sorry, can you repeat?
Or does it just add something to the first question? We're on the perfect event for that, yeah. So feel free to reach out to us, yeah, as recruiters, but also to all the other people. Share your experiences. Share also maybe how the process worked for you, what you've experienced. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to use such an event and ahead, yeah, to develop yourself in applying for a position, and also to get insights about how do big companies, for example, work, yeah, to get insights from recruiters as well. How do they work? Yeah, how can you receive feedback from us? And Alisa, as Alisa already said, yeah, we do have a lot of positions. Yeah, we try to speak to as many people as we can. Yeah, if we have the time. But of course, I applied for a position at SAP 3 times, and at the third time I received like the go and I could start. Yeah, but before that I also applied to different companies, and I was just like, I thought I could be a quite good fit, like 80%, like it was a match, 80%. But I received a rejection. Yeah, and I know how that feels. Yeah. And every time I have to reject someone, it's just like, oh, maybe I have another position or maybe other departments. So I'm always looking, where can this candidate could be a good fit for the company. Yeah, but because of the applicants we have, it's not always possible. But use this event. Yeah, feel free to connect to us as well. And yeah, and network. It's a big thing, networking, yeah, as well, and for SAP as well. So if you want to be successful in a big company like SAP, networking is the key. And I really like the quote here, opportunities don't happen, you create them. Yeah. So make yourself visible even on that event. Yeah. Don't just drink a coffee with yourself. Just feel free to talk to each other and share your experiences. Second question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. How are we time-wise? Do we have time for more questions or do we need to proceed?
One last question.
So one last question. Do we have one already online?
No, we don't have any questions online. Maybe something on site?
We have one on the side.
Oh, you can speak. You can use that one.
Hello?
Yeah, you can go. Sí, funciona.
Hello?
Sí, sí.
Hello, hello. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, thank
Yes,
you. I'm sorry.
I have to say, first of all, that I'm really enjoying this segment. It's something that makes me very happy to hear from every participant and of course the panelists. But there is something so important, I think, that has to be mentioned, and it actually leads to the question that the person here in front of me, sorry, I didn't get your name, but it's something to do with everything. And I was sharing with Adrian, yes, Adrian, authenticity. It is so important to be yourself. It doesn't matter. I mean, you guys were talking about personal branding, which is, I think, amazing. But sometimes with social media, we think and we have this image of the perfect woman or the perfect man, the colors we have to use, the pose that we have to have in pictures. And in many occasions, it doesn't fit to who we are. And I think that's something we really need to keep in mind. And even before we go to take pictures for our resume or to go even for interviews, we have to be sure who we are. And if we get rejections, we have to say, thank you so much. I'm glad that you said no, because that means I do not fit with who you are or what you are offering, and go on. I think it is very important that we keep ourselves true to who we are. And thank you again for sharing. It has been great.
That's a really good point.
Lars and Christina, any thoughts about authenticity?
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I would like to add that not everything you see on social media has actually anything to do with personal branding. There are a lot of people who are visible, who are creating this virtual persona of themselves. And if you meet them offline, you have this immediate thought, oh, you're completely different than I imagined you would be. That is not personal branding. So I mentioned in the beginning, there is a lot of misconceptions of what that actually is. And if your online visibility doesn't match what you can deliver offline, that's not personal branding. So just to kind of clarify that. And I think authenticity is super important. However, it's called personal branding and not private branding. So always make sure that whatever you put on LinkedIn or any other social media can also be seen or read by your boss or your potential new employer or anyone basically in the social sphere. I always say, if my mother can see this and I'm not ashamed or kind of feel awkward, then I'm happy to post this on LinkedIn. But especially in a professional context, if you want to create a visibility to, for example, find a new job or kind of pursue your career, always think about what or how much you want to actually give away. And I think authenticity can also be done if you, for example, choose to create or to share your professional know-how and your skills and anything you know or care about in your professional capacity. You don't have to go into your backyard and take pictures with your kids playing in the sandbox, or I don't know, yourselves on vacation. So that's one addition that I would like to make. Not everything you see on social media has anything to do with personal branding. It's about authentic visibility in a professional capacity, especially on LinkedIn.
Just to add to that, it's really like, you know, what raises alarm flags if you realize there's a big disconnect, right? If your social media profile is that, and then you're coming into a face-to-face interview or a Zoom, and you can't deliver, or you're completely different, right? Everybody can smell if it's fake. Really, it's very, very, very easy, right? So also that really be aware on what's your personality. Where do you think you can thrive? What's the environment that you need to be able to be yourself? So if you really, at somebody who needs a very free, open environment, and you want to be really out there in many different ways, don't go for the most conservative, restricted kind of company environment, right? Just because you're desperate for the job, because it will not fit. The other thing is, depending on where you are in life or stage, every now and then clean up your public social medias, more on the Facebooks and Instagrams, that you drunken in a gutter is not the 5th photo that pops up. It's authentic, but nobody wants to see that.
Thank you, that is a very good advice. I think from here to proceed, we all go home and clean up our Facebook profiles.
Your public profile, right? So be very clear about what is public, what can be seen by whom, and if it's friends of friends, that's already a big group of people.
That is so true. Thank you for your input. How do we proceed from here? Well, I guess we have the perfect opportunity today to network and to ask questions about this. I mean, we have perfect people on site, and I don't know online how that is done. Just a little hint-wise, SAP has a really good pipeline because there are so many companies who have not upgraded their SAP yet. So tech is, at least short term, is going to be a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So thank you for this panel discussion and all your insights and sharings. I think we could go on for hours about this very interesting topic, which is in our mind all the time, what to share, what to not share, how to be seen in the way I want to be seen, how I can progress, etc. So thanks for the moderation, KU and Marlin, and for Lars, Christina, who wrote this book. So if you are interested in more insights about personal branding, I think look at her book. Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah. And Alisa and Sandra, everyone here still has the opportunity to talk to you today during networking later on. Now we come to the kind of heart of our program. We talked a lot about networking and mentoring. So this is exactly what we are doing now. We will open our mentoring lounge, which is also sponsored by Cosnova. I don't know if Christina or Tina wants to come in. And so then we can close this pen around, and we say thank you also with our books